I'm going to show you how to do division with partial quotients. I'm going to do one problem that comes out even and another problem that comes out needing a remainder. The important part about partial quotients is to have students start with large number sets. Thinking about, do they know something about 10 or 100 or 50 or 5? Partial quotient isn't just a record of repeated subtraction. So in my first problem of 108 divided by 12, I wouldn't want to see my students subtract 12 and then subtract 12 and then subtract 12 and then subtract 12 more until they found their zero. I want them to be using their multiplication facts to help them solve this in larger chunks. So my students may not know that 108 divided by 12 is 9. That is a fact that they may not be fluent in yet. But they may know that 12 times 5 gives them 60. So within my division bracket, I do the subtraction piece. On the outside of my division bracket, I'm doing a running total of how many groups, or what was the multiplication problem that I did of 12. 12 times 5 gave me 60. Or I used 5 groups of 12 from my 108, and that means I removed 60 things from my group. I then complete the subtraction problem, and I find that I have 48 left. Again, my student may not know their facts of 12, but they may know that 12 times 2 is 24. Again, out on the outside of my bracket, lined up under my 5 is the ones place, I would put my 2 groups. Inside my bracket is how much is my 2 groups. My 2 groups of 12 is 24 single objects. I then do my subtraction and I find that I have 24 remaining. Again, my student may think, oh, I knew up here that 2 times 12 was 24, so I can do that problem again. On the outside is the number of groups of 12 I have. On the inside is the number of items that means. 2 groups of 12 is 24. I then do the subtraction and find I have nothing left. I then go to the other side of my division bracket and I do a simple addition problem. This is why it is imperative that students line up their work in the problem. So if I have 5 and 2 and 2, that would give me 9. If it was 50, I would make sure that my students knew that that was a 5 and a 0, and that then my 2 went under the 0 for the ones place. Partial quotient is best taught on graph paper to keep those lines and numbers all nice and neat. So what is my answer of 12 divided into 108? My answer is located here at 9. As a general rule, I have my students place the answer on top of the bracket as in the standard algorithm so that they understand that that's where people are expecting to find their answer. Here's a problem that doesn't come out so nice and neat. 3 divided into 506. The question is, how many groups of 3 are in 506? My student should start with thinking hundreds. How many groups of hundreds can I make? I can make one group of 3 100 times and use up 300 objects. They then do the subtraction under the bracket and learn that they have 206 objects left to divide out. On the outside, this is the multiplier. 100 times 3 is 300. Again, I do not want to see my students now say 1 and start subtracting 3. I want them to look at my number and say 206. Well, 100 times 3 is 300. So I do not have enough for another group of 100. But I do know that 50 times 3 is 150. This way, we're quickly reducing the amount needed to divide by. I now have 56 items that need to be put into groups of 3. My hope again is that students will use larger numbers and use their facts of 110s and know that 10 times 3 would give them 30, reducing this number a larger chunk than just 3. A student then may look at 26 and not know the answer, that 3 times 8 is 24. But they may know that, again, 3 times 5 is 15. They used that fact up here when they did 3 times 50. A student then should know that 3 times 3 gives them 9. Which has a 2 here. This is when students may panic. What do I do? 3 may not go into 2, or I cannot get another group of 3 from 2 because there are not enough. This is where the remainder is. Students then need to add their digits over here to find 8 and 6 and 1. Then with the remainder of 2. So my answer, 506 divided by 3, is 168 with the remainder of 2.